I am Tom Fields from Mentor, Ohio. The advances in science and technology over the last 150 years have been amazing, perhaps even miraculous. While there have been some comparable advances in the social sciences, many more are needed, especially in law and politics. To paraphrase Fred Rodell, a former Yale Law School professor, our legal and political systems are, in short, nothing but high-class rackets. They are rackets far more lucrative and more powerful and hence more dangerous than any of those minor and much publicized rackets. Furthermore, the lawyers and politicians, or at least 99 and 44/100% of them, are not even aware that they are indulging in a racket and would be shocked at the very mention of the idea. I just quoted Fred Rodell. Whether or not lawyers and judges know they are indulging in a racket, we, their victims, know it. It is not feasible in a 3-minute interview like this to adequately convey my own experience with this racket. However, thankfully, one of the members of this racket did us all a favor by capturing in a 3-minute video a similar experience, and ABC News kindly broadcast this video, which you can still view on the ABC News website. Here's a shot from the video, ABC News video. A lawyer leaning over this 80-year-old woman to get her to sign a will and a power of attorney. The attorney was subsequently disbarred and convicted or indicted on criminal charges, despite videotaping himself. According to ABC's report, the attorney who recorded this video attempted to use it to convince a court that he was not taking advantage of his 88-year-old victim, who days earlier had been examined by a psychiatrist and found to be mentally incompetent, so as to get her to sign a will and power of attorney benefiting his clients. This ABC News video report captures much of my own experience, in which lawyers and others took advantage of my father during his final hours in a Florida hospital while he was on a morphine drip that had been started as a result of cancer rupturing his stomach earlier in the day. These events are described in detail by the doctor who started my father on the morphine drip. You can read the doctor's testimony, the complete testimony online, along with the testimony of the lawyers and others involved in the case. These are the web pages for the doctor's testimony and also for all the evidence in the case. You can also examine online other evidence in this case, including the will, trust, and other relevant estate planning documents which my father kept in a safe deposit box at his bank. Each transcript is accompanied by a summary of the corresponding testimony, like that which summarizes this doctor's testimony. As a result of my experience, I know that many legal reforms are needed. In my efforts to bring about these legal reforms, I have connected with many others who recognize negligence and lack of integrity in our legal system. One of my acquaintances is Joe Rubicek, a police detective who spent more than 20 years investigating the financial exploitation of the elderly in the county next to where my father lived and died. Joe has even written a book based upon his investigations. The title of Joe's book is Financial Exploitation of the Elderly, a detective's case files of exploitation crimes. And here is a picture of the cover of Joe's book. There is much in Joe's book that I appreciate. I expressed my appreciation in a review of the book that I wrote for Amazon. I collaborated with Joe on this review, which is the first review of Joe's book on Amazon and still appears as such on Amazon. It begins, I am recommending this book because it confirms what I know from my own experience and from communicating with numerous others who have shared with me their own experience, namely that the public has been misled about the adequacy of our existing laws. In addition to addressing the inadequacy of our existing laws in his book, Joe has privately communicated about this inadequacy with me and others. After taking the time to review the evidence and legal reforms I advocate, Joe shared with me the following thoughts about both. Quote, the obvious contradictions abound, and one would wonder what the judge was thinking. As for the lawmakers and what they can do about it, and what we can all do about it, I think that the answer is to set reasonable guidelines to properly recognize and define a person's lack of capacity to give consent in these matters. But you have already done that in all your proposals over the years. You've suggested putting specific safeguards in place for legislation, I know. It seems to me that in your case, there is no way that your father should have been recognized as having capacity while on his deathbed. There should have been laws in place to prevent that, prevent any judge from doing what this one did. It is impossible in this 3-minute interview to even mention many of the legal reforms that are needed. However, there is time here to consider a constitutional amendment which is needed to provide the justice which many of us have been misled into believing that our Constitution guarantees, especially its 5th and 7th Amendments, according to which no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, and in suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of jury by trial shall be preserved. What I and others have learned the hard way is that such rights such as these, are not enforced. Our experience proves not only that we have little recourse when authorities ignore our rights, but also that the Fifth Amendment actually allows us to be deprived of our life, liberty, and property by due process of law, by due process which has been corrupted by the negligence and lack of integrity of elected officials and the officers of our courts. We need to stop these perversions of our Constitution and its amendments, including the Bill of Rights, and we can. But in order to do so, I believe we need to start with yet another constitutional amendment. And in a nutshell, here's the constitutional amendment. What this amendment would do is, 1, guarantee everyone, without exception, who has evidence of injury due to negligence and wrongdoing by anyone else, without exception, the opportunity to freely and fully present their evidence to a jury that is empowered and obligated to investigate, judge, and remedy legitimate complaints in a timely manner. And 2, hold accountable anyone, without exception, who obstructs or fails to uphold this right. In other words, I believe we need to include in our Constitution provisions which expressly establish as pillars of due process this guarantee and accountability. My time is nearly up. I would love more time to introduce you to other legal reforms which I advocate, especially reform of the court reporting system, which is needed to prevent the courts from sweeping evidence under the rug. Fortunately, this video provides me a unique opportunity to connect with others for the purpose of developing and advocating legal reforms that are needed, practical, and reliable. With this opportunity in mind, I will end here by sharing my current phone number and email address. Thank you.